My hormones were definitely out of whack as well.
Yeah, and I would say almost everybody, unfortunately, who finally gets diagnosed with Lyme disease, they've been there, done that, bought the T-shirt, been to a lot of doctors, and probably at some point along the journey have been told that it's all in their head. Well, and or they've been
Or
told,
that
well,
you're
you're just
fine.
depressed. You're fine. You're just depressed.
Yeah, and it's like, oh great, I'm going to be like this forever.
Yeah, but if you've been sick for a long time, there'd be something wrong with you if you weren't kind of depressed, right? So, I mean, was it the chicken or the egg? So, yeah, I'm depressed. Okay, so I'm depressed. Is it because I'm sick and it's part of the illness? Well, in the case of Lyme disease, yes. Or is it because I've been sick a long time and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? So that can cause depression. And then, I've lost my life. Look, I'm isolated. All my friends have moved on because I can't do anything anymore. Well, that seems kind of depressing. So there's lots of reasons to be depressed, and it's not because you're only depressed. It's because you're ill, right? But it's like people say, they say, Doc, fine, I'm depressed. I don't care. Send me to a psychiatrist. I'm just trying to get help. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just want to be my normal, healthy self. So we do need to treat that Lyme disease on some level. I mean, that depression from Lyme disease. Sometimes we need to use herbs or supplements or medication sometimes to help manage the depression and the sleep and all of it, right?
Yeah. In the midst of all of it, you look the same. Like, you look good. You look like you're healthy. You don't look sick.
There's this, and we highly recommend the documentary Under Our Skin. But there's this, I wish I was better with names, but there's this beautiful scene where they're sitting in this large arena, and the interviewer is talking to this woman. And she says, she's relating a conversation she had with her boyfriend. And she says to her boyfriend, how do you look? And her boyfriend's response, well, you look beautiful. And she says, you cannot believe how tired and pain and how much pain I'm in right now. And she says, I went to the doctor and he said, well, you probably just don't like your job. And she looks into the camera and she says, I'm the party planner for the band U2. I like my job. It's like, but this is the kind of stuff that people get told when they have Lyme disease and their mood is off. It's like, well, you just don't like your job. I've been doing my job. One of my patients told me that he went to the doctor and the doctor told him that, and he happens to be the owner of the business. And he says, Doc, I haven't missed a day of work in my entire life. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is you're too stupid to figure this out. And he got up and walked out of the room. And how many of you wish you would have done that, right? I mean, it's so maddening. So you talked about the heart stuff. What about dizziness and lightheadedness? I'll tell you that when I was living in Tahoe, which ends up to be kind of that area of California is a hotbed for Lyme. I didn't know it. I was beginning to know it at the time that I was living there. And I had this rash of patients were coming in that I diagnosed with vertigo. That you've got vertigo, or you have Meniere's disease maybe, or whatever, and then they had Meniere's disease and they got fatigue, so they must have Meniere's disease or vertigo and chronic fatigue syndrome, or then they started having pain. So maybe it wasn't chronic fatigue syndrome, maybe it was fibromyalgia, right? I mean, I'm sorry, you guys, that I did that too. I didn't know any better, and I deeply apologize, but we're learning, right? And now I've been treating Lyme disease for 30 years, and I've learned a whole bunch about Lyme disease. But this is what happens. I was a young doctor 30 years ago. I'm no longer a young doctor. What about dizziness? Did you have dizziness or lightheadedness? Or
Yep, I had the vertigo where I just woke up one day with vertigo, and it was debilitating. I couldn't drive. I couldn't walk. I had to use the walls to support myself to go to the bathroom. And, at the time I had little children that I was taking care of. So it was hard. It was a hard time. And luckily, I was very fortunate. That only lasted a few weeks.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having that and having it, stick with you consistently. So I found different therapies, and, I went to a chiropractor who was very knowledgeable, and she really helped me through that period. And I really think if it wasn't for her therapies, I wouldn't have been able to resolve it so quickly.
Yeah, I've had patients who they lay on the floor and vomit. That's all they can do. It's horrific sometimes. So it can go from, minimal or no symptoms at all in that regard to what I just described. So it can be really, really awful. What about sensory defensiveness? Loud noises really bother me. Bright lights really bother me. Coarse
that's very
fabrics.
common.
Yeah.
And that's part of the autonomic nervous system as well.
Yeah.
Being just on that high defense, high alert.
Yeah. So did you go through any of that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Light, did you have to wear sunglasses all the time?
I didn't, not so much light sensitivity, but definitely sounds, noises. Like if, and I still think I have some lingering symptoms of that. Like if I am in, let's say I would go shopping, and just between the fluorescent lights, the registers, the people, like I would leave there with my brain like buzzing.
Did soap aisles or perfume counters ever bother you?
Yep, I could not go down the soap aisle. I had to plug my nose as I walked past. I still have to do that though. So there's still some sensitivities that linger, and I think that's just my own issues with detoxing and.
Yeah. Well, and so that brings us to, kind of full circle to what I said at the beginning. If you're part of the lucky 10%, why? Well, if you're the person who can't walk down the perfume aisle or can't walk down the soap aisle, or candle stores really bug you, or when you're filling up the car with gas, it's really obnoxious to you, that's a symptom that maybe you don't detoxify well. And then there's the gut. Yeah. What about gut issues and chronic Lyme disease?
A lot of patients have chronic gut issues. It seems like it's, and I noticed it with myself as well. Like every meal, it didn't matter what I ate, I would be left with bloating and discomfort. It seems like that is definitely, most of the time when patients come in, we do give them something to help restore their gut, to help with those imbalances.
Yeah.
A lot of dysbiosis.
And I would say that people get on the what I call a fearful diet, right? So last time I had some milk, it really bugged me, so I'm not going to drink any milk. And I think gluten's a problem for me. And you know what? Now this is a problem, and now that's a problem. Now, and by the time they come to us, they're having rice and water or something, and that's not a sustainable diet. And so here's the interesting thing. Is it really the food's fault, or is it your body's reactions? And it turns out there's nothing wrong with the food. Well, there's lots of things wrong with the food, but that's a separate.
Some of those food groups, but
but that's a separate issue. But there's something wrong with your way your body's processing it, and it's because of the chronic inflammation caused by Lyme disease.